Now, after, say, 30 years of not being aware of all this, and then suddenly accepting the idea, the karmic backlog bursts through into the physical realm and ruins the life we just decided we didn't want anymore. Whatever you do, don't moan about it. Remember, you just decided you wanted out. Now, this is a very good time just to let go completely, conjure up the oldest childhood memory of who you thought you wanted to be when you grew up, and then hold on for dear life, waiting for the storm to settle. In the meantime, try and take every wave head on and try at least to find its meaning and rejoice in your newfound madness until some kind of normal returns and you can reorder your life based on who you really are. So next question, who are we? Well, another one of the things we learn in permaculture is all about ecological niches. Remember that image of humanity as one organism and that we are the cells performing our roles. Well, the big question is, what's your role or what's your niche? Now, the internet is full of dodgy websites that regularly offer you the possibility to discover what animal you were in a past life or what your shamanistic totem creature is, and this is always in exchange for some very personal information and or money, and then they will go on to tell you that you're a white wolf or a golden tiger or a randy phoenix. They never tell you that you were a slug or a tapeworm, or, to do honour to my friend and colleague Ben, who I just plagiarised shamelessly, a shitfly or a tick. However, a slug is not such a bad fellow. Like the rest of reality, it requires a bit of empathy and knowledge to understand the manifestation, and then we are required to make a few jests in the physical to proclaim to the universe immediately around and inside you that you have understood the manifestation. And then, quite like magic, the slug ceases to be a problem for you in your garden. So let's go through it nuts and bolts style. What is a slug? What do they do? The first question we must always ask ourselves is, what does the organism do? How is it linked to other living organisms, and how does it behave in surroundings a little more wild than our vegetable patch? Now, in the forest there are many different types of slug, but a lot less of them. In a garden we will find just a few species, but they regularly materialise in marauding hordes, which gives us the problem. Now, the garden slug is essentially a stomach on a foot. That is why it is called a gastropod. You see, once again, it is all written on the walls for all to see, well, at least written on the walls in houses where the Encyclopaedia Britannica has been used as wallpaper to make up some useful shelf space. The slug is one of the most mobile units in the soil life ecosystem and also one of the largest. It is actually comparable to a dust cart. It crawls around at variable speeds, picking up unwanted matter, and there is always a fresh trail of slime just behind it, peppered with occasional lumps of unrecognisable smelly green sludge. The key is to knowing that the slug's job is to eat freshly dead organic matter. Now, when a conventional gardener, that's dug and hoed soil all in neat clean rows of uniform plants, harvests a lettuce, he takes all of the lettuce to the kitchen, removes the rather wilty, dirty outer leaves and puts them in the compost bin. He also regularly takes all those filthy weeds that he hates away in a wheelbarrow to the same compost heap. In the absence of freshly dead organic matter, the slugs go on a protest riot and munch whatever they can find. In the permaculture garden, the little mulched bands and islands of life are filled with all kinds of plants, sometimes in neat little rows as well, and there is a permanent cover of organic matter on the soil to protect and feed it. When we weed, we leave the unwanted plant on the surface. We don't weed, we harvest mulch. We also believe our own bullshit a little too much these days as well. Now, the slugs are happy and busy following us around trying to keep up with the workload, but this doesn't actually stop them from eating our plants, even though it helps. In fact, our covering of the soil to maintain humidity has made it a lot more hospitable for the slugs. However, we can go one step further using this knowledge and deliberately distract the slugs from what we have just planted out. If we pepper the ground around our newly planted arrivals with fresh dead matter like dandelion leaves, which are just great for this, the slugs will keep on tidying up and our precious plants get a good chance at becoming big enough that a single slug bite won't remove them from the game completely. Now let's go on another notch. If you are observant enough, you will see that the courgette, marrow and pumpkin plants seem to be among the slugs' favourites. Now, why is this? Well, it's very simple. When you plant out a hand-reared squash plant, the first 2 leaves that came out of the seed yellow and die off. Now, who do you think comes along to clean them up as they die off? Ah, yes, revelation indeed. So you see, if you nip them off as you plant out and put them on the ground, the slug comes and cleans them up, but doesn't crunch on through the stem to get from one leaf to the other. If you don't do this, as is the case throughout the gardening world, the slug accidentally decapitates the plant and then looks at the toppled tentative of a courgette plant and says, "Oh, freshly dead organic matter, must be for me," and promptly cleans it up. The poor gardener stumbles out to the garden in the morning to find a slimy stump that won't grow back. Now, let's go up a scale and look at who we can invite into our gardens to help keep slugs down. Now, hedgehogs are pretty good at this. They just need somewhere to drink, so that means putting in a pond with a shallow beach on one side so they can drink and not drown, and then they need a discreet dry shelter somewhere. Personally, I make a tunnel with an old tin sheet stuck down into the ground between 2 pairs of stout wooden pegs, and I cover the whole thing with branches and leaves. Indian runner ducks are a very good investment too. They're absolutely hilarious to live with and can be easily penned up if they get naughty. I let mine have a run round for an hour in the morning and then pen them up in a nice park for the day with a bath to swim in, and then I let them run free from about 4 o'clock onwards. They love eating slugs and bugs, but they're quite furious and rigorous. Rummaging through mulch can be detrimental to young plants, which is why I ration their total freedom to hours of the day when the slugs are either going home or coming out to play. Now, a final step sideways before we slog on to something else. Cleaning up all of this organic matter, slugs leave a trail of slime and droppings in their wake, and the earthworm absolutely loves these droppings and surfaces much more regularly if they are present in abundance. So the more slug shit you have in your garden, the harder the worms are working in your soil, and the harder the worms are working in your soil, the better the soil and the easier it is to grow healthy plants. Between the 2 of them, they also help to sow mushroom spores as well. Black truffles, for example, cannot be spread and resown without the help of slugs and worms together. Now do you see how the dots need joining? So there you go, a whole load of gardening tips on slugs. How the hell does that help with expanding consciousness? Well, quite simply, what I wanted to do was take what is generally considered as a vile and loathsome little creature and put it in a positive light, because as you will have noticed, we aren't all white wolves, golden tigers or randy phoenixes. That's the media, and especially Hollywood, that makes us all want to be high flyers. Don't forget, eagles may well soar, but weasels never get obliterated by jet engines. So you see, some of us are rats, some of us are spiders, some of us are slugs and worms, and we each need to identify the role or roles we came to play so that we can then play them effectively in the humanosphere. The funny thing is, most of us knew exactly what we were when we were children, and then the system beat it out of us, and as adolescents we get thoroughly mixed up about who we really are and end up falling into one herd or another. Now, as you start to get back into the groove of who you really are, and you begin to follow the right path that you chose for yourself before you came back, you will find that the opportunities and resources that you require will just start falling in front of you, and then, just like Bill Hicks said, it's just a ride. Indeed, a few years later, hindsight will torture you periodically by showing you spent most of your life stumbling over exactly what you didn't know you were looking for all the time, and not only that, but the stumbling was rather painful, and that you frequently hurt your foot kicking the shit out of the thing you never knew you needed. Sometimes it all seems to be fitting together just nicely, and then it all goes wrong. Anyway, don't get disheartened. Just sit down and ask yourself, first of all, was this the right objective? Was this really the niche that I wanted to fill? And if you find that it was, keep it up there as a general course heading, let your hair down, and have a damn good think about why it didn't work out last time round. One thing is for sure, it was all your fault on most levels. But the good news is that when you fuck something up, you always get to take away with you what you have learned as a gift-wrapped souvenir, on the condition, of course, that you are capable of learning. If you are not capable of learning from your own mistakes, you may as well go and join the queue for Mars I was talking about earlier. Now, getting things wrong can be compared to sharpening a pencil. Every cock-up is just another stroke of the Stanley blade on the end of the nib. If the lesson has been learned correctly, the pencil comes out of the affair a little sharper, and the next time you try to draw something, your chances of drawing it accurately are a lot higher. After a failed community garden project that I poured my energy into for over 18 months, I learned, number 1, to respect myself a bit more, number 2, that I should stop trying to help everybody I meet, number 3, that being a single male in a community garden is a very, very bad idea, number 4, that adolescents with motorbikes should be shot, outlawed, or have bounty put on their heads as a civic jest to provide paid entertainment and or food for the poor, and above all, number 5, never, ever, 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 ever believe a fucking politician on his word. Always get the deal written down on paper, stamped and signed in triplicate, because when we want something from them, they make us jump through hoops, so why shouldn't it work the same the other way round? So the failed garden project wasn't actually a failure, it was quite crucial in making the next project the success that it already is. Now, once you are comfortable with your niche in the humanosphere, you can then more easily identify the niches of others. But please do this serenely, and please don't try to joyously ram the information down their throats if they aren't apparently aware of it, as you may well disturb the very delicate balances surrounding their balanced position. Now, as this invisible planning becomes more and more evident, tolerance, acceptance, and cooperation become everyday habits. I was on a community permaculture training holiday as an animator, and there was one person everybody started moaning about in turn behind their backs because they went walking round talking to people all day, and we all thought they weren't pulling their weight with the daily tasks. After deeper observation, we did find that this person was actually listening intently to each of us and linking us together in such a way that saved us lots of work and struggling on the physical level. Now, that's a very difficult niche to fill and quite a rare one, so you do have to learn to look past the immediate negative to try and see the positive hidden in the depths. And as Bill Mollison once said, people who live in stone houses probably shouldn't throw glasses. Now, when you meet someone who fills the same niche as you do, it can be all or nothing. It can be a fantastic opportunity to exchange information beside the fireplace, or just an opportunity to shut your mouth, respect the other person, and observe how they fill the niche differently from the way you do. The strong desire to move on and not occupy the same coordinates in space-time as your interchangeable other is absolutely normal. Of course, you don't have to occupy just one niche either, or occupy the same niches forever. You can move on from one niche to another as necessary. Necessary, again, written with a capital N. Some alternative media commentators should probably take that last statement on board. Now, another stunning niche in the nature is the silver birch. This is a pioneer tree that, unlike most trees, can conquer prairie land quite easily. The birch can grow in the bacteria-based soil, whereas oaks and chestnuts do a lot better in fungi-based soil. The birch provides very quickly a dappled shade, and its small waxy leaves decompose very quickly, as does any wood that falls from its branches. It literally fattens the land around it, getting the land ready for the big hardwood trees to come in. Broom and brambles also play very similar roles. On the face of it, the birch's role would seem very sad, as the big hardwood trees that she provides the correct conditions for grow taller and denser and shade her out, and she dies, her wood returning to the soil even more rapidly than she grew. Now, after